Okay, so let's dive into this. Today we're looking at something I think a lot of us wonder about.
Right, this whole area of manifestation, the law of attraction,
Yeah.
and, well, how spirituality fits in.
Exactly. It's everywhere these terms get thrown around, but what's the real connection? We've got some really insightful material from a spiritual expert.
Yes, and the source really tries to bridge these sort of modern buzzwords with some deeper ancient wisdom, which is fascinating.
It really is.
Yeah.
So our goal here, our mission for this deep dive, is to sift through these insights and figure out, okay, how do manifestation, the law of attraction, and spirituality actually connect?
And importantly, what that means practically,
Yeah.
for your life right now.
Precisely. We want to pull out the key ideas,
Mhm.
maybe spark some aha moments about how your thoughts, your actions, and maybe a spiritual view can shape your path.
Okay, let's get started. Where should we begin?
Well, the source kicks off with this really foundational concept. It sounds simple, but it's quite profound. You are what you eat, you are what you think, you are what you see, you are what you hear.
Ah, yes. The idea that this whole mix of inputs literally builds who you are, your personality, and even your future.
And that's the immediate link to manifestation and the law of attraction, right? If you're shaped by what comes in.
Then just wishing for things out there to change isn't really the main point. It's more about looking at your own thinking, your actions, changing the internal stuff first.
Okay, so if that internal landscape is so vital, how does spirituality weave into this? The expert defines it very practically, actually,
How so?
as the art of living.
I like that. It shifts it away from just, specific rituals or ceremonies.
Exactly. It becomes more about keeping your thoughts pure, using it as a guide for right and wrong, especially when things feel unclear.
Though the source does acknowledge that rituals, like puja, can provide a certain kind of power or focus.
True, but the core emphasis seems to be on living honestly, truthfully. There's that example given.
Oh, the rickshaw driver.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
honest rickshaw driver
Yeah.
compared to someone doing lengthy prayers but maybe holding on to negative or impure thoughts.
It makes the point quite powerfully, doesn't it? That spirituality isn't just something you perform, it's a state that originates in your thoughts.
Acknowledging that your life, your work, even your ability to earn a living,
Hmm.
seeing these as gifts from a higher power, perhaps.
That recognition itself becomes a spiritual practice.
Now, one thing that often comes up, a potential barrier for people, is this idea that being spiritual means you have to, like, reject money or material things.
A common misconception. And the expert tackles it directly with a really neat definition of detachment.
May we that again?
Detachment is not that you own nothing. Detachment is that nothing owns you.
Ah, that's good. That really clarifies it. So it's not the things themselves that are the issue.
Exactly. It's the attachment. Letting possessions or money consume your mind, steal your peace. That's the problem. It's about need versus, well, endless desire.
The source contrasts the past and present here too, which I found quite striking.
The idea that people used to love people and use money.
And now it sometimes feels reversed.
Hmm.
We use people and love money.
It's a strong point. Money's necessary, obviously, in today's world. But the warning is about becoming its slave.
And we see it, don't we? People with enormous wealth who are still searching desperately for inner peace.
Which suggests that peace doesn't automatically come with possessions. It comes from that internal source, spirituality, devotion, good company, what the source calls satsang.
Okay, so this journey towards inner peace often involves thinking about or grappling with the idea of God or a higher power. How does the expert approach this?
They talk about God less as a person in a specific location and more as a force, an energy that runs the universe.
So not confined somewhere, but everywhere.
Everywhere, in water, land, mountains, every particle, even within you. The source says there's no place God isn't. Like death, it says God's grace can reach you anywhere.
That's a powerful image. And for those who maybe struggle with traditional religious ideas,
The suggestion is to think of it as the fundamental power behind creation. Like you see a building, you know there was a builder. Discovering that underlying force is presented as a key purpose of human life.
and connecting with this force, understanding it, that brings inner strength.
Immense inner strength. The expert points out that people who have this belief, this connection, often seem more resilient. They have an inner resource, especially when external support systems might fail.
So how do we actually, connect? The source talks about bhakti, or devotion,
Yeah.
and it offers something more than just, say, happiness.
Yes, it distinguishes between sukh, temporary happiness, like feeling cool air from an AC when it's hot.
Fleeting comfort.
Exactly. And Anand, which is described as permanent bliss, finding joy even when those external comforts are missing.
And the key to Anand.
Is Bhajan, remembering or chanting God's name, but crucially, not as a transaction.
What do you mean?
Well, the expert says approaching it with a list of demands is like shopkeeping. True bhakti is about the remembrance, the connection itself.
Interesting. And the source specifically mentions chanting as being very suitable for the current age, the Kali Yuga.
Kali Yukival Namadhara in Kali Yuga, only the name is the support. It's presented as an accessible path, even with our busy lives.
And it's described as a cleaning process for the mind.
Yes, which feels very relevant given, the levels of stress and anxiety we see. The implication is that maybe we're neglecting this essential inner cleaning.
That ties nicely into the next point, doesn't it? Kayan, or meditation.
Absolutely. Meditation is framed as giving the mind a necessary break, like resting and oiling a machine so it runs smoothly. It's about connecting with yourself, understanding yourself better.
The source also mentions Chintan contemplation.
Right, which could involve focusing on divine stories or qualities, a kind of focused inner reflection.
But beyond active meditation or contemplation, there's also power in just listening.
Yes. Listening to, say, katha, spiritual discourses, scriptures, positive talks, the idea is that repeatedly hearing positive, truthful things can gradually shift your mindset and energy.
Even if you don't feel an immediate change in behavior.
Right. It's a process. Like the source notes how love might start just by seeing or hearing about someone. It plants a seed.
This focus on the inner state and inputs feels so relevant for dealing with modern life stuff, stress, anxiety, relationship issues. What does the expert say are the main culprits here?
Two big ones. Excessive desires and expectations. Especially expectations we place on other people and on life itself.
There's a quote mentioned that really struck me.
Which one?
When you remove expectations from another person, you remove their power to hurt you.
Ah, yes. That's quite empowering, isn't it? It puts the control over your emotional state back with you.
Definitely. And how does this play out in relationships?
Well, the source suggests problems often stem from an unwillingness to compromise, to bend a little. Healthy relationships need give and take.
And maybe listening more deeply. Hearing the unspoken sometimes.
Exactly that. And sometimes ignoring the spoken, if it comes from ego. Ego is highlighted as really damaging connections. We have to accept that others, even close family, are individuals on their own path, with their own karma and thoughts.
This links to work stress too, apparently.
How so?
The idea that if you choose work you're genuinely interested in and do it wholeheartedly, it causes less stress than just working purely for the outcome, like the salary.
Makes sense. If the process itself has value for you, the pressure on the result maybe lessens a bit.
Okay, let's talk about outcomes. That whole karma versus fate debate. How much is set in stone? The expert has a clear stance.
They say the idea that everything is predetermined at birth is just incorrect.
So how does it work then?
They explain the three types of karma. There's parab, the results of past actions playing out now, but there's also kriyaman, your current actions, and sanchit, the total accumulation.
So while past stuff influences us, our present actions are actively shaping the future.
Precisely. Your kriyaman karma is constantly creating what's next. So sitting back and blaming fate or bad luck isn't really the way.
Luck favors those who help themselves.
That's the essence of it. Apparently in scriptures, karma gets top billing #1, while fate or luck is way down the list, maybe 5th.
So the message is quite empowering.
Yeah.
You're the primary creator of your destiny through what you do.
Right. Relying on, lucky charms is seen as less effective than trusting your own efforts.
And the results might not be immediate.
Like farming, the source says. You plant the seeds, tend the crop, but the harvest comes later. Focus on doing your best now. Trust the process.
But what about when things do go wrong? When suffering hits? That why me feeling is so common.
The expert really emphasizes that suffering is universal. Everyone faces difficulties, rich or poor, famous or unknown. Shifting perspective can help.
Oh.
By looking at those who might have less or face greater challenges, it can foster gratitude for what you do have rather than focusing only on what's wrong.
There's that quote from the Ramcharitmanas.
Yes. Koitanduki, koimanduki. Some suffer in body, some in mind, some from lack of wealth. Parsuki ramkodas. But the devotee of God is happy.
Meaning true happiness is internal, not just the absence of external problems.
Exactly. And just being alive is presented as a huge blessing. Focusing on the haves brings happiness.
The source also reframes suffering itself. It's not necessarily punishment.
No, it could be a test or a way of being refined, especially for those considered close to God or on a spiritual path.
Like the potter analogy, supporting the clay from inside while shaping and testing it from the outside.
Precisely. It's meant to strengthen you. Think of figures like Mira or Madhavda's immense suffering, but their devotion seemed to deepen.
So suffering can actually intensify your remembrance of God.
It often does. And that remembrance, even if born from pain, can be seen as a blessing. Remember Kunti Mata's prayer?
Vaguely.
She asked for suffering so she wouldn't forget Krishna. The expert puts it beautifully. Suffering reminds you of God as bliss.
Wow, that's a shift. It moves you from maybe arrogance telling God what you want to humility and difficulty, asking God what you should do.
And through that, you grow. Suffering becomes a tool for becoming a better person, a really profound way to look at hardship.
Moving from the internal to the external again. The power of our words. This was fascinating.
It really was. The expert mentioned actual studies, like the effect of words on plant growth, suggesting words carry a real energy.
And this applies strongly to self-talk, what we say to ourselves.
Definitely. All those negative things, I can't do this, I'm not worthy, your mind absorbs them and they actually create obstacles.
Our words also reveal our inner state, don't they? Like saying you're just cutting time versus living by God's grace.
Big difference in perspective shown right there. Words are tools. They can build bridges or burn them, mend old fights.
So the advice is,
Speak less, speak only when necessary, but crucially, speak positively to yourself. Self-love, positive self-talk are vital.
how do you cultivate that?
The expert suggests checking in with yourself regularly. Ask yourself, how am I doing? What do I need? This self-awareness helps you catch negative loops.
Building on that positivity, the source strongly advocates for an attitude of gratitude.
Yes, this comes up as really transformative. Actively practicing gratitude brings positive change.
And there's a practical suggestion too.
The daily list. Yeah, jotting down things you're grateful for, however small. Food, water, the sun.
It sounds simple, but that focus shift could be powerful. It also connects to tradition, right?
Yeah,
Giving thanks upon waking and before sleeping.
absolutely. Gratitude is framed as a way to earn blessings, not just get them by asking. It's recognizing the good that's already here.
And extending that gratitude outwards.
To people who help you, staff, drivers, anyone. Acknowledging their service makes them feel valued, and it reflects well on your own character.
Okay, almost wrapping up, the source briefly mentioned holy places, like the Kumbh Mela. What's the significance there?
For most people, it's about accessing the concentrated spiritual energy. Places where countless devoted people have prayed intensely over time hold a special vibration, a certain blessing.
And the collective energy of people gathering. Satsang.
That's key. The energy created when many saints and devotees come together is described as unique and powerful.
And seeing true saints, Santarshan, is a main goal. How do you identify them?
The source gives pointers. Look for compassion, calmness, someone who seems to have no enemies. Focus on their character, their behavior, not just fame or appearance. These gatherings also visually represent the strength of the spiritual culture.
Okay, so let's try and pull these threads together. After this deep dive, what are the main takeaways?
Well, it really circles back to the incredible power of your inner state, your thoughts, words, your perspective. That seems central.
And the idea that your actions now, your karma, are actively creating your future. You're not just subject to fate.
Right. Then there's finding that deeper, more stable peace, Anand, through practices like devotion, chanting, meditation, inner work.
And that crucial reframing of suffering, not as a punishment, but maybe a test, a refiner, a reminder that pushes you towards growth or connection.
Definitely. And finally, the simple, profound practice of gratitude. How cultivating that attitude can genuinely shift things for you.
These aren't just, philosophical concepts floating in the air. They're presented as real tools.
Tools drawn from deep wisdom meant to help you handle modern life with, well, more peace, more resilience, more fulfillment.
A framework for understanding that changing your outer world really does start with tending to your inner world.
That's a great way to put it.
So, as a final thought for you, the listener, to take away from this deep dive, building on that power of gratitude, why not try this?
Go on.
Just take a moment now or later today. Reflect on the last 24 hours. Can you pinpoint maybe 3-5 things you feel genuinely grateful for? The source even suggests making a daily list, maybe 10 things.
It's a small action, rooted in this wisdom we've discussed.
Exactly. And who knows, that consistent, simple practice might just start creating some really positive, maybe unexpected,
shifts in how you see and experience your world. Something to